Their arrival. The Stellar Confederation had known peace for 6 generations. 17 distinct civilizations thrived across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, their differences celebrated rather than feared. The Zorians with their crystalline technology that bent light and space. The Murkai who had evolved past physical form into networks of pure thought. The Tevari whose biological ships grew and healed like living creatures, all coexisted in harmony under the Stellar Compact. Trade routes crisscrossed the galactic expanse like gleaming threads of a cosmic tapestry. Scientific knowledge flowed freely between worlds. Even the once warlike Draconia had transformed their battle fleets into exploration vessels, their weapons repurposed for scientific study of stellar phenomena. None could have predicted how quickly this peace would unravel. First observer Nilith Zoreth of the Zorian Cartography Guild was mapping an unexplored nebula in the outer rim when her sensors detected an anomaly. The readings made no sense. A massive object moving at impossible speeds, its energy signature unlike anything in the Confederation database. "Control, this is Observer Zoreth," she transmitted, her multifaceted eyes fixed on the readout. "I've detected an artificial construct emerging from the Cygnus void. Energy output exceeds our classification scales." When the object emerged from the nebula's edge, Nilith's crystalline form nearly cracked with shock. It was a ship if such a behemoth could be called a ship. Angular and obsidian, it absorbed rather than reflected the light of nearby stars. Its hull was marked with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. Weapon emplacements covered its surface in systematic arrays, displaying a cold, methodical approach to warfare that sent tremors through her crystalline core. The vessel broadcast a single word across all frequencies: behemoth. Within 12 hours, the Stellar Confederation Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from all 17 civilizations gathered in the Great Harmonic Chamber on the neutral world of Concordia. High Chancellor Oryx of the Draconia pounded his ceremonial staff against the chamber floor, his scaled hide flushed with agitation. "How could a vessel of this magnitude approach our borders undetected? Our sensor networks extend to the galactic edge. The void from which it emerged is a sensor-blind spot," explained thought leader Ixa of the Murkai, their consciousness flickering like static between the neural receivers. "We've long theorized that Region 7119 contained spatial anomalies that could mask conventional detection." First observer Zoreth projected the images she had captured. The chamber fell silent as the council members witnessed the behemoth in all its terrible majesty. "Our preliminary analysis suggests weapons systems of unprecedented power," she stated, her voice resonating through her crystalline form. "And it's not just the technology, it's the design philosophy. Every aspect speaks of a species that evolved with conflict as its driving force." Elder mycelium of the Tevari undulated nervously, spores glowing with anxiety. "And who are these? Humans? We have no record of their civilization." "They claim to originate from a star system beyond the Perseus Gap," answered Diplomatic Minister Vreen. "They've requested formal contact and recognition under the Stellar Compact." "Recognition," Chancellor Oryx hissed. "They approach with a warship of devastating capability and expect diplomatic relations." "Perhaps it is merely ceremonial," suggested Elder Mycelium. "The Draconia once approached with battle cruisers, and now they are among our most valued allies." But the unease in the chamber was palpable. This was different. The behemoth represented not just military might, but a fundamental imbalance to the power structures that had maintained peace for generations. After 3 days of debate, the council reached a decision. A diplomatic mission would be dispatched to meet the humans, led by the distinguished harmonizer Thelian of the Pax Mediatori, known throughout the galaxy for their skill in first contact situations. The meeting took place in neutral space, aboard an ornate diplomatic vessel called the Conquered. Harmonizer Thelian, with their iridescent skin and 4 symmetrical limbs designed for the universal greeting postures, prepared to receive the human delegation. The humans who stepped through the airlock were surprisingly unremarkable in appearance, bipedal, symmetrical, with only minimal biological augmentation visible. Their leader, who introduced herself as Director Olympia Tau, was small by Confederation standards, yet her presence filled the chamber. "The Stellar Confederation welcomes you," Thelian began, performing the ritual gestures of greeting with perfect form. "We are curious about your people and your impressive vessel." Director Tau's face remained impassive. The behemoth is but one example of human engineering, We have observed your confederation from afar for many cycles. We come seeking alliance, not conquest. The diplomatic exchanges continued for hours. The humans were polite but reserved, offering little concrete information about their origins or their true capabilities. They requested star charts, trade routes, technological specifications, giving little in return. As the meeting concluded, Director Tao delivered what would later be known as the Tao Declaration. The galaxy is changing. Forces are in motion that your sensors have not yet detected. Humanity offers its protection and knowledge. In return, we require only your trust and cooperation. The Confederation representatives departed troubled. The humans had not threatened, not directly, but something in their certainty, their careful preparation, suggested they held cards yet unplayed. 2 days later, the behemoth demonstrated why trust would be difficult to earn. Without warning, the massive vessel activated previously concealed propulsion systems and moved to intercept a Draconian science fleet studying a neutron star. Before defensive measures could be implemented, the behemoth deployed a field of energy that engulfed the entire fleet. Chancellor Oryx himself led the emergency response, his battle cruiser racing to the scene prepared for the first conflict in 6 generations. But when they arrived, they found the Draconia fleet intact and fundamentally transformed. "They've upgraded our ships," reported the bewildered Draconia captain. "Defensive shields beyond our engineering capabilities, propulsion enhancements, medical facilities we don't fully understand. The message was clear: we could have destroyed you, instead we improved you." The Confederation Council convened once more, this time in closed session. Fear had now replaced curiosity. "This is technological subjugation," declared Chancellor Oryx. "They demonstrate their superiority while making us dependent on their advancements." "But what if their intentions are benevolent?" countered Elder Mycelium. "Perhaps they truly wish to prepare us for something greater." "Intentions can change," thought leader Ixa responded, their neural pattern darkening. "Power such as theirs, concentrated in a single species, threatens the balance that has preserved our peace." The debate raged until long-range sensors detected disturbing developments. From beyond the Perseus Gap came energy signatures suggesting more vessels. A human fleet was assembling. Not one behemoth, but potentially dozens. The decision was unprecedented but unanimous. For the first time in 6 generations, the Stellar Confederation would unify its military forces. If the humans sought to establish dominance through their superior technology, they would face the combined might of 17 civilizations. As battle fleets assembled at strategic points throughout Confederate space, the behemoth remained in position near the neutron star, apparently unconcerned by the growing forces arrayed against it. Aboard the massive vessel, Captain Alara Thorne stood on the command deck, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. Her second-in-command, Navigation Officer Darius Voss, analyzed the Confederation fleet movements. "They're preparing for war," he stated, "exactly what we hope to avoid." Captain Thorne's weathered face showed the weight of her mission. "They see our strength as a threat rather than reassurance. They don't understand what's coming. Should we reveal our purpose now, before blood is shed?" Thorne shook her head. Director Tao tried diplomacy. They weren't ready to hear the truth. She gestured to a display showing deep space readings from beyond the galaxy's edge. "But they'll see for themselves soon enough. The Void Harbingers approach faster than our models predicted. And if they attack us before the Harbingers arrive?" Captain Thorne's gaze hardened as she watched the Confederation fleets moving into attack formations. "Then we'll have to survive long enough to show them why humanity built the behemoth, not to conquer the stars, but to save them." As the combined fleet of the Stellar Confederation prepared its first strike against the human interloper, neither side realized that the true test of galactic survival was already emerging from the darkness between stars, a force against which even the mighty behemoth might not be enough. The Alliance. The combined might of the Stellar Confederation converged upon the behemoth in a display of unified purpose not seen for 6 generations. 1,000 warships formed a sphere of destruction around the human vessel. Draconia battle cruisers with their plasma lances, Zorian crystalline ships that bent reality with geometric precision. Even the living vessels of the Tevari had been weaponized, their biological systems reconfigured for war. Grand Marshal Crixus of the Draconia, appointed Supreme Commander of the Unified Fleet, stood aboard the flagship Indomitable. His reptilian features were set in grim determination as he surveyed the tactical display. All vessels in position, reported his tactical officer. Targeting solutions locked. Crixus performed the ancient Draconia war prayer, touching claw to heart, eye, and finally extending it toward the enemy. For the Confederation and all its peoples, commence Operation Midnight Shield. The attack began with a synchronized barrage designed to overwhelm any defense system. Thousands of energy beams, missiles, and exotic particles converged on the behemoth from every angle. Space itself seemed to warp under the concentrated assault, creating a storm of destructive energy that engulfed the human vessel entirely. For 3 full minutes, the bombardment continued unabated. When the energies finally dissipated, a cheer began to rise across the Confederation fleet, only to die as quickly as it had begun. The behemoth remained, its obsidian hull unmarked. Its defensive shields hadn't simply repelled the attack. Sensors indicated they had absorbed the energy, growing stronger with each impact. Impossible, whispered Crixus. Not even a Merkai-thought fortress could withstand such firepower. Before the Confederation could launch a second wave, the behemoth broadcast on all frequencies. Captain Alara Thorne's voice resonated through every ship in the attacking fleet. Your weapons cannot harm us, but we have no desire for your destruction. I ask again, stand down and listen. What approaches threatens us all. Grand Marshal Crixus snarled in frustration. Another deception. Dispatch the Vanguard squadrons, target their sensor arrays and propulsion systems. 300 nimble attack craft surged forward, executing complex maneuvers designed to penetrate defensive screens. The behemoth responded with pinpoint defense fire, not destroying the Confederation fighters, but disabling them with surgical precision, leaving pilots unharmed in drifting vessels. As the battle reached its second hour with no progress against the human ship, the behemoth suddenly powered down its weapons. Captain Thorne's voice came again, but this time with an edge of urgency. Marshal Crixus, check your long-range sensor array, coordinates 337 Mark 42. The threat we've been warning you about has arrived. Crixus hesitated, then nodded to his sensor officer. Verify. The officer's scales paled as she studied the readings. Marshal, massive objects emerging from subspace, configuration unknown, energy signatures, they're unlike anything in our database. The tactical display shifted to show the newcomers, vast structures that seemed to defy conventional geometry, their surfaces constantly shifting like liquid metal. They radiated energies that disrupted normal space, creating distortion fields ahead of their advance. This is what we've been preparing for, Captain Thorne transmitted. We call them the Void Harbingers. They've consumed 3 galaxies before reaching ours. Everything we've built, every technology aboard the behemoth, was designed to combat this specific threat. Harmonizer Thelion, who had observed the battle from the diplomatic vessel conquered, opened a channel to both Crixus and Thorne. If what you say is true, Captain, why not simply inform us? Why this demonstration of force? We tried, Thorne replied. Your council dismissed our warnings as fabrications designed to justify our military presence. We needed you to see our strength so you would understand what we're all facing. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Grand Marshal Crixus watched as more Harbinger vessels emerged from subspace. Pride warred with pragmatism as he considered the unthinkable, that the humans had been telling the truth all along. All ships, he finally ordered, cease fire, maintain defensive posture. Within minutes, representatives from both sides convened via holographic projection. Captain Thorne stood alongside Director Olympia Tau, facing Grand Marshal Crixus, Harmonizer Thelion, and delegates from the other major Confederation powers. Director Tau spoke first. The Harbingers were first detected by our deep space monitors 23 years ago. We've been studying them, preparing for this moment. They aren't interested in conquest or resources. They consume entire star systems, converting all matter into energy to sustain themselves. If they're so dangerous, Crixus challenged, why bring only one ship? Where is this human fleet our sensors detected? Captain Thorne's expression softened slightly. The behemoth isn't just a warship, Marshal. Observe. The massive vessel began to transform. Sections of its hull reconfigured, revealing systems previously concealed. What had appeared to be weapon emplacements now revealed themselves as components of something far more complex. The behemoth is a key, explained Thorne. a focal point for the containment field that will trap the Harbingers and prevent them from spreading throughout the galaxy. Elder Mycelium's spores pulsed with understanding. That's why you needed our star charts, our spatial coordinates. You're not planning conquest, you're establishing a defensive perimeter. Precisely, confirmed Director Tao. But the behemoth cannot generate the field alone, we need your help. The first Harbinger vessel approached the assembled fleets. It emitted a pulse of exotic energy that overwhelmed the sensors of several Confederation ships. Two Zorian crystal ships shattered instantly, their molecular bonds disrupted at a fundamental level. "They're scanning us," Captain Thorne warned, preparing to feed. Grand Marshal Crixus needed no further convincing. All Confederation vessels, defensive formation Aegis Prime, coordinate with the human vessel. As the combined fleet repositioned, the behemoth revealed its true purpose. The geometric patterns on its hull began to glow with increasing intensity. Energy conduits previously hidden beneath armor plating now channeled power to a central spire that extended from the ship's prow. "We need to establish a resonance field between your ships and ours," Thorne instructed. "Merkai vessels, align your thought matrices to these frequencies. Zorian ships, reconfigure your crystal lattices to amplify the containment signal." Across the fleet, suspicion gave way to cooperation as the true scale of the threat became apparent. The Harbingers, now numbering 12 massive vessels, began a complex formation, creating a web of disruptive energy between them. "They're establishing their consumption field," warned Officer Voss from the behemoth. "Once it's complete, they'll begin systematic breakdown of all matter within it." As the fleets worked frantically to establish the countermeasure, the first Harbinger attack came without warning. A beam of pure void energy lanced out, cutting through three Draconia battlecruisers as if they were vapor. The vessels didn't explode, they simply ceased to exist, converted instantly to energy that the Harbinger absorbed. "Field integrity at 60%, reported a Zorian technician. "We cannot establish full containment before they complete their consumption web." It was at this moment that Captain Thorne revealed humanity's final secret. All human vessels, dispersion pattern Nova, execute emergence sequence. From hidden positions throughout the sector, previously cloaked ships appeared, not one or two but hundreds. Each bore the same angular design as the behemoth, though smaller and more maneuverable. They moved with impossible precision, taking positions at key nodal points around the Harbinger formation. "The fleet's signatures your sensors detected," explained Thorne to the astonished Confederation leaders. "We dispersed them throughout your territory months ago, preparing for this moment." Together, the human vessels generated synchronized energy fields that connected with the behemoth's primary beam. The Confederation ships, now understanding their role, aligned their own systems to reinforce the emerging containment field. The Harbingers sensed the trap forming around them. Their attacks intensified, reality-warping energies lashing out at the Allied fleet. Dozens of ships on both sides were lost, converted to energy or torn apart by spatial distortions. Aboard the Indomitable, now serving as the coordination center for Confederation forces, Grand Marshal Crixus worked alongside Navigation Officer Voss, who had transferred from the behemoth. Together, they directed the complex dance of ships maintaining the containment field. "The field is stabilizing," announced Voss, 82% integrity and rising. "But the Harbingers are adapting," warned thought leader Ixa, whose Merkai consciousness was directly interfacing with the field. "They're identifying weakness points faster than we can reinforce them." Captain Thorne's voice came through clearly despite the chaos. "This was always a possibility. We need to collapse the field inward, creating a pocket universe around the Harbingers, trapping them in a space-time bubble they cannot escape." "But that would require," Crixus began. "A focal point," Thorne finished. "A vessel at the center to trigger the collapse and seal the breach." The realization spread through the command structure. Someone would need to pilot a ship directly into the heart of the Harbinger formation, a one-way journey. Before arguments could break out over who would undertake the suicide mission, the behemoth began moving toward the center of the containment field. "Captain, what are you doing?" demanded Director Tao over a private channel. "What the behemoth was built for," Thorne replied calmly. "Its core was designed to initiate the space-time fracture. The rest of you need to maintain the outer field integrity." As the massive human vessel pushed forward against the Harbinger's energy attacks, its shields failing section by section, Grand Marshal Crixus made a decision that would reshape galactic politics forever. All Draconair heavy cruisers escort formation around the behemoth, buy them the time they need. Other Confederation commanders followed suit, committing their forces to protect the human flagship as it drove toward the center of the Harbinger formation. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes as they absorbed attacks meant for the behemoth, their crews sacrificing themselves for a species they had considered enemies mere hours before. In the final approach, only the behemoth remained, its hull breached in multiple sections, its systems failing. Captain Thorne stood alone on the command deck, the rest of her crew evacuated to support vessels. "Field collapse in 30 seconds, she reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Maintain the outer containment until the bridge is sealed." As the behemoth reached the geometric center of the Harbinger formation, Captain Thorne opened a final channel to both the human and Confederation fleets. "This isn't the end," she promised. "This is just the first wave. Build on what we've learned here today together." The behemoth's core initiated the spacetime fracture, collapsing the containment field inward. For a moment, the vessel and the Harbinger seemed to stretch impossibly as spacetime folded around them. Then, with a silent flash of light across all spectrums, they vanished, trapped in a bubble universe disconnected from our reality. The Allied fleet maintained position, stunned by both victory and sacrifice. Among the first to speak was Elder Mycelium, whose living vessel had emerged relatively unscathed. "They saved us all," the Elder transmitted, "after we tried to destroy them." "They built their ships knowing this day would come," Grand Marshal Crixus acknowledged. "Everything they did was preparation for this battle." Director Olympia Tau's hologram appeared in the command centers of all surviving vessels. "Captain Thorne's sacrifice won't be in vain, but as she warned you, this was only the first wave. The Harbingers have sent scouting tendrils into multiple galaxies. More will come." "Then we will be ready," declared Harmonizer Thelion, "together." In the days that followed, the Stellar Confederation was transformed. The 17 civilizations that had known peace for generations now faced an existential threat, but they also had new allies with technologies and perspectives forged in preparation for this very conflict. The human fleet, now led by Director Tau, began sharing their technological advancements more openly. Integration teams formed on every major world, combining the unique strengths of each civilization with human innovations. On Concordia, in the Great Harmonic Chamber, a new symbol was added to the 17 that represented the founding members of the Confederation. The emblem of humanity, a stylized behemoth, took its place among the galactic community. And beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the vast darkness between stars, more disturbances were forming. The Harbingers would return stronger and more numerous, but this time they would not find unprepared civilizations divided by suspicion. They would find a galaxy united, forged in the shadow of the behemoth.